Alrighty guys, welcome to the Igloo today, and today we're going to be talking about specific builds that will help kill the queen ultra quick. We're not going to go straight into like what is best for you to be in the environment, because like almost everything is not a challenge in Fallout 76 when it comes to killing mobs and killing hordes of mobs or whatever, because most builds just work. Especially if you have just the base like damage buff stats for almost every kind of weapon. But these are the two builds that I've pretty much been able to do predominantly. So I have a mixture between strength and perception, because I have 9 perception and I have 12 strength. And whenever I am trying to swap to like a strength kind of category or a perception category, when I'm killing the Scorched Queen and I'm doing like massive amounts of damage, I mainly do my min-max build. Now, I only covered why I use the armor for the Unyielding retrospect in the revised version, but we're also going to be covering a little bit more. So, with both of these builds, here's the highlights that I'm going to give you from both of these builds. With killing the Scorched Queen, I don't use a 2-shot explosive weapon because of the concurrent damage bug that people are getting. So what is the damage bug? The damage bug is exactly that. You cannot do damage after you deal a certain amount. So what the server says is that, hey, it thinks that you're cheating, so I'm going to turn off damage to you. So if you have a 2-shot explosive weapon, just like for what I've been seeing all over Reddit, for what people have been trying to clamor on over, is that there's just like, yeah, I want to do all the damage. Why am I damage bugged? Why am I this? Why am I that? Well, it's because of how the game recognizes the explosive properties in this game when it comes to your shooting projectile legendaries. So, we're going to get into further detail. So, the other thing that I'm going to be doing, if you're going to be having Revenant, which is a Type 2 Endurance card, it gives you 50% more damage bonus for 2 minutes when a player revives you. 2 minutes is a lot of fucking time to do damage, especially when you're fighting the queen. And when she's landed, that's the best time to do it. Now, I personally have an Unyielding build for this because luck is a extreme part of the game, as well as your intelligence and endurance, especially when you are just keep hammering the queen. So personally, I don't use power armor when I'm fighting the queen. And because I put the nuke in the most proper place possible so that you can be at forward station Delta without taking any radiation while fighting the queen, this is one of your highest advantage builds that you can have, because luck also plays the role at getting better loot drops. So if you are in Unyielding armor and you're doing this, luck has a big part of it, as well as charisma. That'll be later on into the video. The next thing that you're going to be wanting is Tenderizer. Tenderizer is make your target receive 6% more damage to 7% more damage when you are actually engaging for 7 to 10 seconds. That means every new target is taking 6 to 7% more damage, depending if you have level 2 or 3. Very particular for this. And it actually makes it so that you're just going through and you're just tanking almost everything. It's very viable. It's something that you should honestly be doing personally in your builds, especially if you're going to be killing all the mobs around you while making sure your adrenaline reaction is going through. The other thing that you're going to be worried about is Gunsmith. So, after the patch that you are able to have 200% durability, this card can be swapped out with Demo Expert once this card and these builds are complemented properly with not being damage bugged with explosives, especially with explosive legendaries. Very important for this. So, again, that's one of the cards I would keep out, but in order for you to do the most efficient queen killing possible, I would keep that card and keep off Demo Expert, because that's just my personal way of like seeing this kind of situation. Because whenever I try to kill the queen with a explosive weapon, even without the card on, I get damage bugs. So personally, use this so that you have this combo, a 2-shot weapon. Keep your 2-shot explosives in your inventory if you do have them. Okay, Don't use them at all when killing the queen, because you're just going to waste your ammo and waste your time. So then the other thing is Nerd Rage. So when you are below 20% health, you gain damage resistance, you gain 20% more damage, and 15% AP regen. Now the last one is going to be more important than anything else on top of it. Now both of these builds will have this, and this is why I'm specifying these certain types of cards for both of the builds that I showed at the beginning of the video. If you want to go and click down below on your special builds, nukesdragons.com is probably this site in order for you to specialize in your build. Now, the only reason why most of my adrenal reaction, especially for the heavy gun section, is only 5 is because when you are pretty much very stationary, you're not going to have that much AP regen, and you're going to be blistering through ammo. So you would rather have a luck chance in order to get most of your AP back compared to something else, because when she's on the ground, all you're going to do is and you're not going to really like always trigger vets all the time. So again, this is very important, adrenal reaction, because you're going to be killing the mobs that are around you, so you can have a max up to 60% more damage on top of the 50% damage, and then on top of tenderizers. So right now you are doing 100 and to this build 116% more damage with just going down, getting rezzed, and then making sure tenderizer and adrenal reaction if you hit up to 6 targets before shooting back at the queen, saving you a lot of ammo, especially for ultrasight ammo. You need ultrasight ammo. You're going to need it as much as anything else on this, because you're doing superior damage. And using that ammo, especially if you have a ultrasight 50 cal 2-shot like I have, it's one of those things where you're just like, we need that, because Flux is not cheap. Flux has never been cheap, and it is just crazy. Now, the most certain things that you need onto the luck is starch jeans. If you don't have starch jeans, I mean, you shouldn't be on there. And then the other one is bloodied mess. If you have those two, it's going to help you a lot. 4-leaf clover as well, and class freak. Okay, the Grim Reaper sprint is good to have, especially while you're doing both of these builds, because again, the luck percentage is better than actually not having that luck percentage build, especially while you are being complemented in full unyielding armor, because luck does scale to having everything else, and this is why unyielding actually has a benefit. So unyielding, like I've said in my other videos, does not scale for strength, it does not scale for perception, and it does not scale for agility. Why? Because that's directly linked to damage. The things that are scaled with strength is your carry weights. So if you have a full unyielding build, you have everything else that I mentioned, including Nerd Rage, and you have all the pieces, you're able to increase your carry weight the lower your health is. Very important. For perception, it doesn't really help you with much besides a little bit better aiming that I've personally noticed. With endurance, it doesn't increase endurance because that would make you run forever. What I would recommend is to also have the marine wetsuit under armor, and then increase that to the best that you can for your endurance portion of the build. And then for charisma, charisma is best for enabling to do that. Now for sharing perk cards, it will not share better perk cards if you have full unyielding. That's not part of this build. What is part of this build that will help you in the charisma tree is better store prices. So if you are using that unyielding with everything else on top of it, I would highly recommend that. So then it goes to intelligence. If you have Gunsmith on, and you have full unyielding, and you have Gunsmith 5, your weapons will slowly degrade. I've gone through 3,000, almost 4,000 rounds, and I did not break my 50 cal. Especially with having the combination of these two things together. Same thing with my AK. I could go through about 2,000, 2,500 rounds with my prime receiver, and it works tremendously. Now, if you're going to be min-maxing anyway, you're pretty much going to be one shot. Okay, so there's no point in you actually being in power armor, especially, again, big thing, if you put the nuke in the proper zone for Fisher Sight Prime, this will help you tremendously. Okay? Then it goes on to luck. So with luck and the unyielding build that I've had on my other revision, it also helps with your luck as well. So you have a higher percentage chance in order to do Bloody Mess. You have a higher percentage chance to get Reaper Sprint, so you get more AP regen while using VATS. Starch Jeans works about the same, so you're not going to worry about it. But anything that's luck-based kind of stuff, it actually works more. Not as a stagnant number like Class Freak and Starch Jeans. Just like if you're going to be making, what is it called? Super Duper. If you put Super Duper on, you actually have a better chance to double your results while making ammo, especially if you have the Ammo Smith card as well that's under agility. Very important. Especially, again, this is not directly to killing the queen. This is passively helping for the queen with an unyielding build. Very important at the end of the day when it comes to that, because you're going to need ammo to shoot her unless you're full melee build. And everybody's seen when you're having the queen, there's just a bunch of people with like a bunch of clubs just sticking out and looking at the sky and just waiting for her to land without even participating, and having like a perception, at least 9 perception, in order to help the team so that they can actually shoot some pew pew and get the target to actually fall down, because the target in the air, the queen, actually has to take a certain amount of damage in order to land sometimes, and then sometimes it's not at all. It's very weird and very wonky, especially for killing the queen. But after I've killed the queen about 82 times, these are the best builds that I can probably do. Again, you can hot swap some cards out and put them into different categories, but the main gist of this min-max build characterization mainly relies on those cards, okay? And then I gave you a specialized version for both perception and strength for 2-shot weapons, because, again, if you use a 2-shot explosive weapon, you're going to get damage bugged, and then you're going to have to Alt F4, and then you're going to have to get out of the fight, and then you're going to be like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Why should I be doing this? Again, you have to play around the game, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is the case, especially right now in the current state of Fallout 76, especially on the high end when it comes to PvEing the queen and all the mobs and everything else that's around, because this is probably the best 2 options that you can have for perception and strength, and they very as well complement one another. Now, the final thing I want to add is ammo. So, if you have a actual 50 cal prime 2-shot, and you actually have a 2-shot prime handmade, this is where it gets down to it. So, with the Ammo Smith and also that extra card, which is Super Duper, you have a chance to double your ammo from 180. That's 360 shots that you would have for using 1 yellow cake. Or, what was it? A violet flux? I forget exactly. And then the same thing for AK rounds. But you got to remember that it has a different scaling factor. So you have to account for on how many shots that you're actually going to produce for your build to be the most efficient in order to take down the queen. Now, I've noticed that I'm doing around like 342 per shot with the full min-max build with the prime 2-shot handmade that also does 50% more limb damage versus my 2-shot prime 50 cal that I have, and that does around 277 damage without triggering Revenant, Tenderizer, and Adrenaline. So, because I have that factored in, you should be able to see by using Flux as a standard, because everything else is easy to get. Steel is easy to get, and also lead is pretty easy to get generally, especially if you have one of your camps set up on a lead deposit site while you're doing your farming runs for steel. My main steel farming runs is pretty much Uranium Fever and a few other sites, but my lead deposit runs are pretty much all 3 silos that are in there. There's a weight room, the fire station, which a lot of people do know about, and a few other things that are a lot of useful tips, especially for getting lead and steel. But when you're getting that extra flux, sometimes you have to nuke a separate site, and then you don't use a single shot of prime ammo. Whenever you're at a different site that's not prime, you do not use prime ammo, because that is your bread and butter ammo that you're going to use to kill the queen. Whenever you're doing something else, like I nuke sometimes the super mutant site that's down below, and then I try to nuke other areas that give you better stuff for reds. A lot of bloat flies have a lot of fluids, and some have hardened mass. Again, if you want to get like a mass of fluids, you should be able to get a bunch of this stuff while you're farming, because not everybody's going to be relying on the duplication glitch, especially once eventually all of the iterations of the duplication get fixed. You're going to have to be able to farm for this prime ammo, especially if you're going to be wanting to be a part of like this game and you experience it and you're going to be killing the queen. And then if there's going to be stronger queens or whatever in the future from future free DLC, like what are we going to be getting from there? How quick you want to have a damage sponge person? Maybe if you want to have like 2 to 3 people that are in min-max build, so that you can take out the queen within like 3 minutes, and then you can server hop again so that you can do it again on an alt character, and then you hot swap to the other character in order to do all the damage. It's just that level of what you have, especially in Corporation. And normally when I do say this myself, it's better to do it with a team, no matter what. You can't do the queen solo. You can. It sucks. It's really hard. You're going to go through a lot of ammo, but it's not worth it at the end of the day. You just lose too many disadvantages because of your non-melee character builds. If you have a non-melee build, you're going to have a bad time, especially with killing the queen. You're going to go through a lot of ammo, and you're not going to be able to properly kill her unless you're in a full melee spec for some people. And I will be honest with that, because there is certain builds that are out there that complement one another, and having a bunch of melee characters that are just hitting our kneecaps will definitely help you, especially in your situations with killing the queen. If you guys like this kind of stuff, please leave a like, leave a comment down below, and have a wonderful day, everybody. And again, thank you for having 4,000 subscribers on this channel. This does actually mean a lot, and I'm actually trying to make more part of this on YouTube, because I'm actually off of having finals week and everything else, so it's very, very helpful right now. So again, thank you everybody, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and have a wonderful day.